Welcome back to the Business Pulse podcast. Today, we have an exciting guest with an amazing new product who I met through a Web3 tech startup incubator called Codebase. We will be talking about Disgo and how she is revolutionizing social recommendations for the bar and restaurant industries.
This is the Business Pulse podcast, where you'll discover strategies, tools, and stories to inspire success through conversations with leading business owners, startup founders, and venture capitalists. Our aim is your success. Presented by XKOVA. Turn your token holders into growth catalysts. XKOVA is an invisible, white label payment infrastructure for protocols and blockchains, making crypto easy for everybody. Try out our public beta at beta.xkova.com.
Hi, Lynette. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Candice, thanks for having me. Super excited.
I'm so excited to share all about your journey with Disgo, what it is, what it does, how you got here, and where Disgo is going. So let's start with what is Disgo and who is it for?
Yeah, so Disgo, I'd say we're kind of tackling two sides of the story for restaurants and bars. We're helping them leverage word of mouth marketing. And on the consumer side, we're making loyalty programs a little bit more interoperable with each other and allowing consumers to be rewarded for sharing their favorite places.
So just say I'm a consumer and I'm going to use Disgo for the first time. Can you walk me through the process of using Disgo?
Yeah, so with us, you'll download the app and then do a very quick login. And essentially how we operate is we're running these restaurants loyalty programs. And so you'll have a Disgo NFC tag, which is the similar technology to Apple Pay. And so you'll just tap with your phone like Apple Pay, and that'll check you into a Disgo partnered venue. And then with that, you'll earn +1 points like a traditional loyalty program. But I think what makes this a little different is where we're kind of leveraging, incentivizing, and rewarding you for sharing via like word of mouth. And so as you continue to earn perks at your favorite places, you can either use them yourself or send it to a friend. And you're incentivized to send to your friend because if you gift a perk to your friend, A, you're showing them one of your favorite spots, and B, they get to go off like, if it's skip the line or 20% off or something that you've earned there. But you get +3 additional points towards your loyalty tiers. So you can kind of move towards those more exclusive tiers a little faster because you're being a champion of your favorite places. So that's kind of the current idea. And obviously we want that to expand and grow, but that is the main kind of idea we're building off of for Disgo.
I love how you said champion of your favorite places, because one of my favorite parts about what you're building is really the social component to it. The idea of people like to go to places that they know that their friends like. It's different than if you go and you see a review from a stranger on some website like Yelp or TripAdvisor, because you don't really know, does that person know what I like? So when you get a recommendation from a friend, or if you know somebody in a new city, you always say, hey, where should I go to eat? Where should I go for dinner? Where should I go for breakfast? Like, that's something when you're going to a new place, or even in your own city, if you feel that the restaurants that you've been going to are kind of stale, you're like, I want to try a new place. Let me ask my friend where to go. And so you've tapped into that and made it easy for people rather than randomly texting somebody, where should I go? Like, you can see all your friends' favorite places and then maybe discover something new. So what inspired you to come up with this idea?
Yeah, so I've actually had a very interesting background. So I studied hospitality, which, yes, there's a degree for it. I've always kind of worked in both hotels and restaurant spaces since high school. And so I've always had an interest in it. And being a foodie myself, I've always thought, that space hasn't quite won. There's no winner yet. That's like something that I personally would use per se. And so when I first moved from college to New York City, coming from Austin, so many people would tell me kind of recommendations of where to go. And I basically would write it down in my notes app and then have to like Google each place if I'm nearby. And I thought this was such a hassle. And then Google's lists came out, which was kind of nice because I guess this is the first iteration of what Disgo is today. And I taught myself how to code. And I built kind of a recommendations where it was like a Google's list, but you just had to follow people, and it aggregated everybody's likes. So basically you don't have to follow many different lists. You can just see, like 5 of your friends have recommended this one place, right? And then on top of that, I thought it was important to be able to add in what specific menu dishes were interesting, and or like a picture of it, just so that you kind of knew, because every restaurant, not 100% of their menu is going to be the best. They have their high sellers and their not so profitable items. And so if you accidentally order an item that maybe they're not very good at, or they're testing it out and it's not as popular, that might skew your vision of actually what the restaurant could be, and you may never go back. And so also aggregating the data of like the best dishes that they're known for, what people have tried that is the reason that they come back. So that was kind of the first aspect of Disco. And then, we can talk about more of that, but essentially that's kind of where it all began. And I was just, I've hated Yelp. I don't really like Belly. I don't want to rank between a barbecue place and an Italian place. I don't think you can compare apples to oranges, in my opinion. So I don't think there's quite really any tool yet that I would say
I guess
is the winner.
barbecue.
So yes, exactly. There's 2 different moments where I might crave either or, right? So
right.
Yeah, so that's kind of where Disco is trying to also achieve, and also that, you don't need to really rank places that you love. Why not just show it just based on, your loyalty status, obviously. So that's kind of where we're attacking it.
I love that so much. I want to dive into 3 things that you discussed in there. The first one is, we'll start at the beginning, your experience in college. You said there's a degree for that. Cornell is super famous for their hospitality degree. And you started a blockchain club at Cornell. Can you talk about why you decided to do that, and what the impacts were on future generations of students?
Yeah, absolutely. I have always kind of been interested in finance and tech and that side of the aspects. And I didn't know if I wanted to work per se yet in hospitality. So I thought I wanted to go more the traditional, where every Cornellian takes, is the more financial route. And while I was there, I lived on the same floor as one of my really close friends, and he was mining Bitcoin at the time. And this was in 2016. And so 2015, 2016. And so that's when I kind of learned about it and thought this was a very interesting aspect and tech that's coming out. And I wanted to be a part of like the forefront runner. We also realized, I think being at Cornell was very fortunate, because they have a PhD and professor kind of organization called IC3. And that's where, like Avalanche's Emin Gunsier and Kevin and Signicki and all those guys kind of came out of. And so there was no undergraduate quite club yet. And so that's kind of where the idea was that, hey, also, me and the co-founder, we're both hoteliers, funny enough. And so we were like, hey, we aren't tech people at all, but this is obviously a tech product. How we need to learn from, people that understand a bit more on the technical aspect of things. So let's create a club here and for the undergraduates, and we can teach them about like finance and the investing side of things that we see. And they can teach us about the tech and how we should look into what blockchain is more interesting than others, et cetera. So that's kind of the start of it, and why we decided to build it and start this club. And yeah, it's been great. I ran the first Cornell blockchain conference in New York City my senior year. It had 250 people. And now I think they've increased to 400, 500 people each year. So they just had it, I think, last weekend. So in New York City, I was unable to attend this year. I typically try to make it out each year. So it's really great. I still advise them. It's really great to see we've had women presidents. And so, yeah, it's just been awesome to see it grow and the club still flourish even after so many years post-college for me.
That's inspiring and amazing that you've done that. I want to definitely dive into the fact that Disgo uses blockchains. You mentioned that you had started learning how to code, and I know that you have had iterations of Disgo. Can you talk for the audience, especially for people who are just starting their own startup, who maybe are not having success on the first run? Just talk about your own journey about iterating and trying over and over again, and maybe even investing in yourself to learn new skills like coding.
Everybody always says your idea could change and shift. And I really think it does, especially as you start speaking about the idea to, your potential customers, people that are potentially wanting to use it or, buy it or whatever it is that you're building. And I think naturally speaking, nobody knows everything. And so when you start talking to industry experts about things, your idea kind of starts to change a bit. And I think it's healthy for it to change. Obviously, you have that core conviction, which is still very good and strong to keep, but it is definitely a journey in of itself where I think people need to be a little bit flexible. I don't call those failures, I call them learnings, and I think it's kind of brought us to where Disgo is today, where I like to say third time is the charm, right? And so just to talk a little bit about the journey of Disgo, so as I mentioned, when I graduated college, coming from Austin, I moved to New York City. And so I really wanted to know places to go and eat as it's a new city for me. And I thought that I don't like Yelp. I don't really trust it. And then Google's list didn't necessarily exist at the time. And so I thought, and we didn't have ChatGPT either. I thought it was very important that if I wanted to build a kind of a tech company, I should probably understand the foundations of it. And so that's kind of where I really easily bought on Udemy or Udemy, however you pronounce it. That's like a video academy, a tech platform. Literally bought a video and then slowly kind of taught myself how to code with that purpose. And I think that helps makes learning something easier and more fun is when you have a idea or a goal in mind that's related to it. And so I kind of actually built a full-fledged app, full stack from it, and had people be able to try it, follow it, and all that stuff, which was super exciting. Obviously COVID hit, and so nobody was dining anymore. And so I took that, and then there was the rise of NFTs during COVID, and I kind of meshed obviously my blockchain crypto background and interest into kind of that social side and that social aspect. And I was like, I think there's something related here. And that's kind of where both ideas kind of came together. And I think the second attempt of Disgo was us attempting to ride the NFT hype, which I think is never a good thing per se, because hype dies. And so you want to actually build products that people can use for a long time and what's needed. And so that's kind of where Disgo, what we're building now today, and kind of taking aspects of both sides of the coin and kind of merging it into one new idea. Yeah, I think you never know, had it not died, had NFT not gone hype and kind of brought to my attention, who knows what Disgo would be. Or so, if you have a conviction that something's missing in the market, you should go for it. Even if it may not look like how you initially viewed it, doesn't mean you're still not solving for it.
You had been building this, restaurant bar app, but then COVID hit. And so obviously that's a massive blocker. And I think a lot of people would have just stopped right there and said, no, I'm just going to give up on this dream and I'm going to go to something else. But you saw what was happening in the market at the time and then worked to try to leverage it. Now, I know that ultimately it shifted, but that was really smart that you were like, okay, this part of the market is blocking me, but how can I use what's happening now to help keep propelling myself forward? I think that's an important lesson for any industry, because sometimes there will be big things that happen that are outside of your control. But so you have to think of what you can do now, what you can do to keep moving forward. So I think that was brilliant. And so can we talk about how now Disgo is using blockchain and you're using Avalanche? So tell me, of all the blockchains you could choose, why Avalanche?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I've always thought they were an underdog of a chain. I really liked their consensus mechanism and how they, scale and get to consensus in a very different manner than what we typically saw with the EVM chains, and allowing their compatibility with EVMs and Rust and all these different. I thought it's a very, maybe not on a I thought from my understanding of the tech that it was very sound. Obviously, I'm not the most technical person, but from my understanding of businesses and how we operate and what chain that you need as a plug and play, I thought Avalanche was one of the top choices. I think also the team is just really incredible. Professor Sear or Goon, he is a brilliant man, and I think he genuinely is building stuff and has been in the space for so long. He is building stuff to help, and it's not just hype based or things like that. And so that was something I've always thought that I commended, is that even though a lot of other chains were, building into the VC hype and all of these, Avalanche really kind of stuck to its core power of like, we're building tools genuinely for builders. And now there's so many with their new L1, being able to spin up an L1 yourself very quickly and customize things. I think that is going to propel Avalanche to the next league, because a lot of these Web2 companies and even Web3 companies like us, I think for us, especially on the consumer side, we kind of believe that blockchain is a background tech. It is a tech that helps you, but is not the selling factor of your company. And so I think, especially nowadays, that's kind of where the trend is moving. And so actually having tech that can be used to kind of be customizable for us to leverage it in the way we need to leverage it, but not have it be the standout be all, is what blockchain technology should be kind of working towards and building towards. And so I think Avalanche and their different plug and play solutions is really helpful in that case.
I love that you said Avalanche is for builders. I totally agree with it. I love the fact that big institutions like BlackRock, California DMV are using Avalanche technology, but it's also accessible to smaller projects like Disgo and like what we're building. Like, we chose Avalanche because it is for builders. So it's very exciting to see what people are developing on it. So can you talk about how Disgo uses blockchain?
Yeah. So right now, I think because we are a consumer-based app, I believe, when you're a consumer app, you're building for the masses. And unfortunately, the masses are not crypto users per se. So we have really we call ourselves secretly on chain, slyly kind of used blockchain for now. Obviously, I would love to diversify and get deeper into the Web3 space, but I think you kind of have to slow non-crypto users into that journey, right? And so the beginning of us is that the memberships and the loyalty programs that we're building for these restaurants, these are all NFT based, and every perk that you get is an NFT. And as you send and gift that perk to your friend, that is a transfer from wallet to wallet of the NFT. I think eventually you could do cool stuff like marketplaces or lentment of memberships and things like that, because it is a smart contract at the end of the day. That's kind of the beginning. And, a lot of our friends, they're like, oh, Lynette left the crypto space to build this, which is funny because I did it, but people don't know. And most of our users are non-crypto. So I think we're starting off very slow, but eventually we can beef and leverage that technology even more. And we want to, utilize Avalanche's L1 capabilities and maybe build our own ecosystem where we also have a Disco lifetime kind of status, and you can build that up as well within the ecosystem. So that's kind of the end goal, but starting very small.
I do believe that what you're saying is where the future is headed, where blockchain is the underlying technology and people use it without even necessarily knowing that they're using it. So you're ahead of the curve doing that with Disco. We also see it with games like Off the Grid, where a lot of people play this massively popular game. They have no idea that when they're getting things, they're using blockchain technology in the game. So I think that's where we're headed, because ultimately, if we want to see mass adoption, we don't need to necessarily like shove it in someone's face. Like, you need to be tech savvy. You need to understand all these aspects of blockchain in order to use it. No, we want anyone to be able to use blockchain. We should make it fit their lives, not make them uproot their lives to fit it. So I think that's exactly what you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I've always said, at the end of the day, a blockchain is a ledger, right? With also, smart contract extended capabilities, but the core value is it's a ledger. And so you don't see companies selling that they're using QuickBooks or whatever, back-end accounting software tech. And so that's kind of our vision as well, is that it is not a sexy technology. And I think people need to get over that.
I think, I guess I'll disagree a little bit. I do think it's a little bit sexy because it allows us to do things that we wouldn't, because of the smart contracts and everything. Also, immutability. It will allow, things to grow and make them better. Digital ownership, like we were talking about, maybe there could be a marketplace in Disco. Well, I mean, right now, it would be hard for people to be able to own something digitally and then be able to resell it. Like if you're playing a game and you get a skin or a special item in the game, to be able to sell it, maybe not even just on that native marketplace, but other marketplaces. I mean, digital ownership is really one of the core ethos of Web3.
Yes, I agree. And maybe what I mean by not sexy is that it doesn't sound sexy to a non-crypto user. And so I love the capabilities that can come out of it. Like you said, with digital ownership, etc. We are firm believers of that. But, if you were talking to my non-crypto friends about that, they're gonna be like, what? And then not want to actually use it. So that's what I mean by non-sexy, is that there's, just a huge learning curve, and a lot of people don't want to have to learn it. And so we kind of have to attune to those masses, as well as how do we get people in the door and slowly kind of build these capabilities out so that they learn and get excited about why we're so excited, instead of throwing 5 million different things at them.
I think you hit the nail on the head totally. And I think this is one of the reasons why we haven't really seen mass adoption on the scale that we all hope that we can see it yet. It's because, honestly, there is a learning curve. It's difficult for people. And I also liked how you mentioned that the value proposition of Disgo is not that it is using blockchain, but blockchain just supports really the mission of Disgo. I think that is the way to go, because if you're just marketing to what is now currently a Web3 audience, is a very small pool, but you're talking about being able to expand infinitely. So, because obviously there's bars and restaurants all over the world. So I know that you're starting now in your core city. Can you talk about who your current clients are and where you expect to see Disgo in the coming years?
Yeah, we at Codebase with Candice and the XKOVA team launched our pilot with one restaurant, Seven Spirits. They're a great place if you want to go check it out if you're in Austin. And the owner's great. And he took a chance on us. And since then, via word of mouth, funny enough, that's kind of how we slowly expanded to other places as well. And we've now expanded to 8 restaurants and bars, which is super exciting. And we're, hopefully trying to grow that. I think where we want to go eventually is, right now it's very hands-on, where, we would love to be able to build kind of that software aspect where people can just quickly spin up their own loyalty program and run it, and kind of like a plug and play solution aspect for them, and then kind of run their marketing and those aspects through Disgo in that manner. So we're hoping to scale much faster in coming years, but right now I think it's good to be kind of hands-on, and we're doing these venue takeovers with each restaurant to kind of highlight, us launching a loyalty program with them. And people typically get a first, I think we got 25% off for our last venue takeover at Pop, which is super cool, if you check in with Disgo. So, I think people are starting to see the value of that and get excited about that. So yeah, we're hoping, more to come in that aspect as well. So it's cool to kind of have multiple facets of the business.
Absolutely. So, and congratulations on already expanding, because Codebase wasn't that long ago, and now you're up to 8. That's fantastic. So I want to talk a little bit about your team and what it takes to build a startup team, your relationship with your co-founder, what makes a good co-founder to co-founder relationship. So can you dive into that?
Yeah, so we're actually a team of 4. 2 of them are devs, super smart. They've been working with me through the second iteration of Disgo, so we've worked together for a while. And our other co-founder, Nicole, who you got to meet, she's great. I think she brings in a lot of value in that she comes from a non-crypto background, and so she kind of brings in that aspect. There were things when I was designing the UI, for example, where I would put minted and, without even thinking twice. And she was like, what does minted mean? And so things like that I might have overseen had we not had her. And we're really kind of appealing towards the space of marketing coming from a non-crypto lens per se. And so, yeah, I think having a strong team, and not even just a strong team, I think more of how you work together is even more important. One of our devs, he is getting a PhD in distributed systems, so he's a very smart guy. And the other guy, was a front end when we first started, is turning full stack. So it's awesome to see his experiences grow as well. And, you hear about stories where teams don't work well together. They have a lot of strong backgrounds, but the mesh isn't there. And I think the meshingness is even more important than just having the strong skill sets, because I think that's kind of where you make or break in a startup in of itself is, having a strong team. And I feel very fortunate every day that I have a team with me that, believes in the idea, but also we just work well together and we're trying to have fun together, which is, I think, sometimes lost in the entrepreneurship aspect of things.
Oh, absolutely. As we just said, we were in the Codebase program together. So I got to see you and your co-founder, Nicole, work together. And you looked like you were always having fun. I mean, bouncing everything back and forth off each other. It was definitely a synergy partnership there, which was really cool and awesome to see. So speaking of Codebase, do you want to talk about the program, what you got out of it? Would you recommend it? Do you feel it's beneficial? Like, just jump in and talk about Codebase and your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, it led me to meeting you and Chris, and so many fabulous other cohort members. I really loved our season two's cohort. I thought everybody was building something very interesting, unique, and different. And everybody kind of it really lifted my spirits of being an entrepreneur and being in the space and seeing everybody build together. And the Argentinian bonding was incredible. We may have bonded also trauma bonding too, but that means we're lifers for now. I think Codebase is what makes it unique compared to other accelerators, in my opinion, is that because it is out of the Avalanche Foundation and that side, their incentive structures from a traditional like VC accelerator is going to be different naturally, just because obviously not just investment on a money side, but as your company grows, they naturally are going to reap those benefits. And so it seems more of an equal general, hey, how do we both win together? Because that's what's going to make both of us succeed the most. And so that aspect of why I think Avalanche's Codebase is something that we saw more valuable than a traditional VC's accelerator program is because that initial motivation is more similar together. And also they give you a grant and you had a chance to potentially earn some funding. I think that really helped us kind of kickstart Disgo. It's allowed me to kind of still be full-time. I was kind of bootstrapping it all. And so, which is great. And so it really helped take us to the next level. And I think they're still supporting us and we still have catch-up calls with them, which is really great. I think it's something that we really cherish and value is they genuinely want to help us grow and likewise we want to help them grow. So yeah, that's kind of where I think the motivations, I think that's the biggest thing out of it. Sorry for my ramble, but is that our motivations are similar.
Yeah, you brought up amazing points. I do think that everybody who's building inside the Avalanche ecosystem helps elevate the Avalanche ecosystem. Someone's like, wow, you built this cool thing. How did you do that? You built it with Avalanche? That's amazing. So I do think that seeing all of the different things that people are building definitely helps people discover this tech, because I do think that many more builders should be in this space. I mean, because as I said before, we're using the same technology as like industry giants. And this technology would have been prohibitively expensive for small teams. Like you talked about, potentially Disco's L1. I mean, just, not even a year ago, that would have been prohibitively expensive because you would have had to stake a ton of AVAX in order to be able to even start that process. But now with the new upgrade, they've made it accessible so that anybody can do it. And I love this because it feeds into the ethos of blockchain, right? Accessibility, where anybody should be able to succeed. And so I do believe that is Avalanche. And also I love that you mentioned the support, because going through Codebase, the journey, all the things that they taught us, the classes and everything, bringing in lawyers, bringing in marketing experts, like it isn't your average incubator. Like they really care and want you to succeed. It's so cool.
I think also all the projects, like everybody just cares so much and we're all caring together. And I think that is also something special.
Oh, yeah. And like everyone's so different in what they're building, but I do feel that there's like a common maybe a common personality type, I guess, of just who are really passionate and like I want to do this huge thing and change the world, basically. So yeah, I think that I'm glad that we met through it.
Likewise.
Yeah, I think that it attracts a certain type of person and then lets you get to network and meet those people. It's very cool. So I want to mention, I know you have an event coming up. Have you announced it publicly yet?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
So
Do you want to tell people?
So we're launching with In Cahoots. I'm not sure if you're an Austinite listening to it, you'll probably know it. It's on Dex. They are really cool because they have 3 different venues to them. They have, if you know, a rooftop, and then they have an Austin garden and then a studio section. And each place kind of has a different vibe, which is really fun. So you can just stay in cahoots and go up and down and find the vibe that fits you for the night. And so I think it's a really big fish for us, which is we're really excited about. And we're throwing a venue takeover because we're launching their loyalty program May 18th. We're doing like a house party, summer house pool party kind of vibe. And so, yeah, we're really excited to kind of grow with them as well. And they attract a lot of our main target audience. So we're really excited to hopefully get those people onboarded.
That's fantastic. So May 18th, what time does it start?
I'm pretty sure it starts at 2, but I can double check. I think we just ironed out the details this week, so I need to double check.
I love how you called it a venue takeover. It's like, it's not just an event, it's a takeover. And I love this because I do feel that, that you're taking over. It means taking over the scene. Yelp and TripAdvisor and things like this, they better watch out because what you're building is so innovative and cool that when people discover it, they're going to be very excited to use it.
Yeah, we're trying to build a community and not just the Yelp elite communities. We're just trying to be, every kind of community we enter, and as we expand, we just want to build a community of disco people that are foodies and want to try new places. So that's kind of the goal.
I feel that Austin's really like the perfect home base for you to do this, because of just the culture there.
Yeah, it's a really great middle market. That's a big foodie place and a tech place as well, which is, I think, a good fit. And I think we believe like if we can conquer Austin, a middle market, we could easily conquer the bigger cities as well.
Yeah. So I guess, is there any parting words that you want to leave the audience with? Like, what's the best way for them to download Disco and also to connect with you?
Yeah, so we're both on app and the Play Store. We are Disgo, DISGO, so like discover and go meshed together. And yeah, you can find me, I think, under my full name on any socials, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and same with Disco. We are at the Disco app, at the Disco, no app, but it's just at the Disco app sign. Don't spell it out. But yeah, so we're on there. We're marketing and stuff. And if anybody ever wants to chat, I'm always happy to chat.
And I'll go ahead and put your social links in the description of this video or podcast,
perfect.
wherever anybody's listening to it. So Lynette, thank you so much again for joining me today. I was so excited to have you on, and I'd love to have you on again, maybe 6 months down the road when you have more updates to share.
Yeah, absolutely, Candice. Thanks for having us, and we're super excited about XKOVA, and maybe eventually there's some partnership there. So,
we would love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
Thank you so much, and have a great day.
You too.